Hey everyone, my name is Nolan. Welcome back to another All the Mods 10 tutorial video. In this video, we're going to be going over the Mekanism basics. So the All the Mods 10 questline actually does a pretty good job at laying things out for you guys now. When I went through the Mekanism questline, it was really hard to figure out how the heck to get started. The Mekanism mod is giant, and it definitely is not going to be covered all in one video. But getting the basics down and allowing you guys to progress will allow you to automate a lot of things, make things more efficient, and eventually you'll be able to craft something called the fusion reactor, which is able to generate a ton of power. Now, all this will be their own videos, so for now, let's just get the basics down. Now, I'll pretty much say this in every video. Everything that will be discussed in this video that you guys don't know about yet, such as power, has been discussed in previous videos, playlists linked down in the description. A lot of Mekanism items have different tiers with giant crafting trees, so make sure you set up an auto crafting system, also linked down in the description. And one important piece of information that I should have been saying up until this point, but I didn't realize until now, is for all these different mods that you will spend a lot of time on, it's a good idea to pick somewhere far away from your actual base and set up a waystone. Waystones are really cheap to craft. And actually, this is really appropriate for this video because what you can make from the Mekanism mod is something called the dimensional stabilizer. This is it right here. It's pretty expensive, but we should be able to get here in this video. And this allows you to keep chunks rendered. So if I was to go to my base right now, things would be really laggy. However, my base is still rendered and producing resources, as you can see by this coal dust count still going up. So Mekanism can create a lot of lag, so it's good to go somewhere far away, set up a waystone, so that way you can keep it rendered, but out of your render distance where it creates lag. So we'll get to the dimensional stabilizer later on in this video. For now, let's get the basics set up. So pretty much all Mekanism machines are gonna need power, so make sure you have a good amount of energy cables or ways to transfer power. And you are gonna need a lot of raw ingredients, such as osmium, steel, and also coal, redstone, diamond, and obsidian are going to be needed a lot. Luckily, all of those I just mentioned can be got using infusing farms, which we've already discussed. So we already discussed how to set up patterns and auto crafting. So something I'm going to note about Mekanism is pretty much everything you craft, you should make an auto crafting recipe for. That way, you don't have to manually go through and craft everything again because you're gonna want a lot of the same machines. So let's make something called the metallurgic infuser. This will allow you to make a lot of the basic ingredients for this mod. All right, I'm just gonna set this here and it will be hooked up to power. Now, immediately before you guys move on, you wanna make this thing called the configurator. It's really cheap, and this allows you to change the inputs for items, chemicals, heat, energy, and everything like that. Now, I don't actually use this on the item itself. I'll use it on pipes, Mekanism pipes, I guess I should say, because a lot of the input management can actually be done. In fact, all of the input management can be done from inside. So that's what we'll go over first, the input management. So the UI looks like this. This top left corner here is where you manage all the inputs. So right now we are on the items by default. So this is where the items get inputted. They can get inputted from the top, the front, and the left, and the output is on the right. Now, one thing to note is that if I was to get an output here in the blue square, it won't actually get ejected because eject is off. So you need to make sure that it's turned on. You can, of course, change all these simply by just clicking this square, such as input and output. And if you have something like energy, extra, or input, it's important to note that the colors do matter because they are tied to whatever goes in here. For example, something like the electrolytic separator has two outputs. So when managing which way the outputs go, it's important to know which sides are which color. So the left side is blue and the right side is teal. Of course, all this can be changed to fit your needs. So by now in All the Mods 10, you've probably worked with a lot of item transportation and probably fluid transportation. But Mekanism introduces chemicals and heat. Now, heat is very rarely used, but chemicals are used quite frequently. One of the hardest things I have tried to figure out with Mekanism is how to actually get chemicals into a metallurgic infuser. Because to make the basic ingredients like infused alloy, you need something like redstone. And actually just the basic ingredients is redstone. So I spent forever trying to figure out how to get chemicals in here, and it's really simple. You just put the item in the extra slot and it turns it into the chemical for you. So basically what I like to do is create a machine for each chemical and keep that chemical stocked using a stock export bus. So I'll have one for redstone, one for diamond, and one for refined obsidian. I think those are the 3 major ones. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the input management. Now over here on the left, we have a transporter config. I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't know what this does. I've never used it in my All the Mods 10 experience. This security just manages who can use this machine. And up at the top right, we have the upgrades, but we'll come back to the upgrades later. Down here at the left, this tells us how much energy we need in order for this machine to work. Now, very late game, once you upgrade these machines a lot, they require a lot of energy. And so actually, these nitro cables aren't going to cut it anymore. You will need to make Mekanism energy cables in order to sustain the amount of power needed. So just a little side note there. Early game, for this tutorial, you won't need to worry about that. So yeah. Also, redstone control. If you want it to function without redstone, just keep it on ignored. Otherwise, you can change it. Okay. Let's go over making the basic items. If I throw a copper ingot into the input section, you can see that it's cooking it. And the copper ingot made an infused alloy. An osmium ingot will make the basic control circuit. I think that's what it's called. Yes. Now, it's a good idea to keep these stocked and just constantly crafting, at least for the early part, because you will need these basic ingredients a lot. Once you get a few of those ingredients, you can instantly upgrade this machine to the basic infusing factory. Then what you can do is put your basic control units back into the infuser and upgrade them again, so you can go straight from the basic infusing factory to the advanced fusing factory. So now you go from something with 1 input to 5 inputs and outputs. And again, it functions the same way. You can put chemicals in here on the side. Now, when you upgrade your machines to factories, you have another button here called auto sort. If I was to just put 32 osmium ingots in here, it would put them all into 1 slot, which is pretty inefficient. If I do auto sort, it will automatically split them up efficiently between the different slots. Now, this is very useful for like auto crafting because it makes things way faster. But we're not done making this faster. No. Using infused alloy and osmium dust, which can be obtained through the crusher machine, which is Mekanism. This is what it looks like right here. We can make something called a speed upgrade. So over here on the upgrades, we can see which upgrades are valid for this machine. If they are grayed out, they are not valid, and it will actually just say not supported. But this one can hold speed upgrades. Each machine can hold a maximum of speed upgrades, and I'm going to show you how much faster this goes. So right now, pretty dang slow. If I throw all 8 speed upgrades in there, it will install them, and oh, we ran into a problem. That's right, upgrading your machines with upgrades requires more energy to function. So you will need something called energy upgrades. Now, usually what I'll do is I will just add energy upgrades until I don't get the error anymore, because it's really hard to figure out how much energy is actually required. Usually though, for 8 speed upgrades, 3 energy upgrades is enough. So now if I throw my osmium ingots in here, osmium ingots, you can see how much faster it is, and we're able to get resources really fast. Now what I would recommend doing is setting up 3 infusing factories. Again, 1 for each chemical we're going to discuss right now. However, an important thing about Mekanism machines is that they can be directly inputted and outputted through each other. So if they're right next to each other, and we have an output on the right side, and eject is turned on, all the outputs just going to go instantly into here. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to turn this off, so that way we aren't ejecting anything. It is actually really convenient for building like long processing lines, but we don't want that for this video. Okay, so we have 1 machine stocked with redstone. Now, to make the next tier of ingredients for upgrading our machines to be even faster, we need a diamond chemical. In order to obtain that, we need something called an enriching factory. Now, I am going to install my speed upgrades, and you can actually install upgrades by just shift clicking on them, or shift right clicking, instead of just going into the machine. So the enriching factory will take something like a diamond, and it will turn it into the enriched version. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory, huh? Now, these enriched diamonds function as chemicals, so we can throw them into the extra slot, and boom, now we have diamond chemicals? Chemical diamond. So now we can make the elite control units by putting advanced control units into an infusing factory with diamond, and we can do the same thing with the alloy to get reinforced alloy. This will allow us to turn all our machines from the advanced version into the elite version. Now, in order to upgrade the elite version into the ultimate version, we need a lot of obsidian, and we need to make some enriched and refined obsidian. So you'll need to make something called a crusher. However, for the sake of this tutorial, I upgraded it to the elite crushing factory. Now what I'm going to do is throw my obsidian in here, and it will crush it into obsidian dust. 1 block of obsidian will give 4 dust, so pretty good returns. Now you want to take that obsidian dust and put it into an infusing factory with diamond, and that will get refined obsidian dust. Now all these machines can be hooked up to your applied energistic system, like I said, so you can keep things stocked. You can hook up pattern providers to certain machines if you want to request for certain recipes, but you can also use these logistics to move different items and fluids and chemicals and heat. So here I have some ultimate logistical transporters, and just because I don't want to manually move my dust over here, I'm going to set up some transporters to automatically move items for me. Now, the way I have this set up here isn't going to work by itself. This is where the configurator comes in. If you shift right click on where it connects to a machine, you can change between push, pull, and none. So right here, I want this to pull from this machine, and I need to make sure that this is set to output. There we go. So since I'm configured to items, you can see by using the scroll wheel, I'm changing between items, fluids, whatever. So I'm set to items, and it's blue there for output, so the items will output there. Now I don't want anything to go into here, so I'm going to switch this to none. I'm going to switch this to none, and because this is the only other connected part, everything will automatically be pushed into here. But just to be safe, I can switch it to push. So now if I throw my obsidian in here, nothing gets exported because I don't have eject on. Oh, it still didn't work. Oh, also, this machine needs to be input. This was set to like output or something, so it wasn't able to recognize. But yeah, all those items got pulled out and pushed into this machine here. Turn this to auto sort so it moves faster. So yeah, it's the same principle for everything. Transporters, pipes, tubes, and conductors. Now, this refined obsidian dust can be thrown into enrichment chambers to get enriched obsidian. Now this will go into our third infusing factory. So now, using diamond, we can turn our infused alloy into reinforced alloy, and then we can turn our reinforced alloy into the ultimate alloy, except I need to speed this up, or the atomic alloy, I guess is the name of it, using our refined obsidian. So now we can go all the way to the best machines possible. So yeah, this guide equipped you with the tools necessary to craft all these machines here. Not only that, but it also equipped you with the tools necessary to upgrade these machines to be as efficient as possible. So again, forgive my PC for lagging, there's a lot going on here, but now you can have something like this monstrosity. I have infusing factories with redstone, diamond, and this is an enriching factory. The obsidian one is over here. And yeah, all the pattern providers with all the recipes necessary for crafting things. Some of these things stay stocked in order to automatically craft. For example, my crusher is infinitely making obsidian dust, coal dust, and fluorite dust. But yeah, then you can use these maxed out machines to continue down the Mekanism questline, which looks something like this monstrosity. Also, we have now covered all the ingredients to make the dimensional stabilizer, so just make sure to place it somewhere around here where it's connected to power. You can also turn on the visuals to see if the chunk is loaded. Not all of this is loaded, so I am going to want to expand it a little bit. If you expand it too much, you will need to add some energy upgrades. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this beginner's tutorial. If you guys want me to, I can come back and make a video going through this questline because it can be kind of complicated, but it does a good job at explaining everything. Anyways, you won't need to go through this questline until you want to set up the reactors, which are pretty late game anyways. But for now, this will help you automate a lot of stuff. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Hope to see you guys all in the next video tutorial, and bye-bye.